A lot in our country going on about black fathers not being there for their kids. Much of that actually comes from, yeah, it sucks. You'd think that impoverished people would be more into the important things like love. How do you have time for love when you're busy in survival mode? Also, y'all know the ghetto weed lady. This is our stereotypical idiot from the black community. Now, don't get me wrong, we got idiots from every community. But of course, we have people who try to live up to stereotypes. How many of y'all knew a cheerleader in high school who was a total slut? How many of y'all know cowboys who put a dip in their lip? How many of y'all have been to schools where the football was more important than the curriculum? So we get this man up in Washington State, and I was listening to one of these, I guess they're podcasts. It's really just a YouTube channel. And these guys usually pop up like, 5 or 6 different examples of different men going through things and, the help that they've gotten versus, well, pointing out that the churches cater to women. The businesses cater to women. Our politicians cater to women. Women make 70 to 80% of consumer buying decisions. This is all of our economy. Women spend more. Women spend more money. Women decide where the money goes. A man's job is to earn it, a woman's job is to spend it. It's difficult for me to have lesbian friends because even my lesbian friends seem to think that I'm a piggy bank. You don't need a man, you don't need a man, you did it all yourself, you never needed a man, never needed a man. Hey Sean, you got $5? One woman I know in Boulder, all she needed was a signature. And she said, Sean, you always brag you never had a credit card. I need a signature so I can get into housing. That didn't work. I told her it wouldn't work because my credit history sucks because I've been homeless since I turned 18. She had this opinion that that meant that my credit was perfect and I didn't have any debt. Well, that's not the case. When you're broke, you accumulate debt just because you fucking exist. Unless you're good looking. If you're good looking, you can play on that and get a little bit more for yourself. You might have to do some things that are immoral, but you know what? There are women that I know who are good looking, who have had sex with people for money or for a roof over their head. There are women that I know that would have had sex with that guy for free. Not every guy is willing to hire a prostitute, and not every prostitute is good looking. Now, what's this got to do with a father in Washington State raising a 17-year-old? Well, first of all, this man is not a father. He found out that his son was not his son when his son was 17. Now, what did this man do? Did he kick her to the curb and him to the curb and say, hey, you lied to me, you're both gone, this is bullshit? No, that's not what he did. He'd raised that young man for 17 years and taken care of her for 18 years. You know, according to her, she'd never been with any man but him. And it was a fluke that ended up with them having the DNA thing. You know, someone in the family gets sick, you go and you test everybody and you go, hey, you know that kid's not yours, right? Thanks, Doc. Now, what did this man do? He kicked her to the curb. He kicked her to the curb so that she was homeless. And rightly so, she fucking deserves it. That man spent the better part of his youth raising a family that wasn't his under false pretenses. It's one thing when you make the decision to do so. When you say, hey, you know what? When you date a woman, being responsible with her kids is pretty fucking important. If it gets serious, then you need to understand you might need to step into a role that requires a little bit of command. If it doesn't get serious, you need to understand that it ain't their kid's fault. If it's just a one-night stand or something like that, that doesn't need to involve the kids at all. That's not their business. They're kids. If mom wants to have a romp in the hay, well, she's a grown-ass adult. It should be okay. Same thing with the dad. Now, this guy who's raising a 17-year-old boy who ain't his own. Or a 17-year-old young man, I should say. He's raising this 17-year-old. He doesn't have quite enough to pay for all the stuff over his head. And the lady who he kicked to the curb trying to take him to court because he made her homeless. He made her homeless. No, he was paying all the bills. She'd had a free ride, literally a free ride. She was doing most of the spending. The house that they bought, she decided on. He went to work faithfully every day, come back from work every day. No, she didn't cook. No, she didn't clean. She didn't have to. Now, the argument of whether or not she was a good stay-at-home mom, should she be required to cook? Should she be required to clean? Oh, we cannot have this gender bias being forced on women that they have to cook and they have to clean. Well, for God's sake, do something. How about you get a job and I'll stay home and take care of the kids? Oh, we can't have that because then the man is a simp. Also, it's going to fuck up his work record. A work record is a lot more important for a man because we have a lot of leeway given to women. Corporations do cater to women. Who makes the decisions about what you're buying in your house? My Uncle Matt, when him and Sherry got a divorce, my Uncle Matt's complaint was that she was always on fucking speed. So, of course, he'd get back from work. He's a bricklayer. Sometimes 12, 14-hour days easy. Sometimes 12 to 14-hour days followed by cleanup because you got to get everything taken care of while it's still an adequate and appropriate temperature to do so. And then you still have to clean up your stuff once it starts getting dark. Then he'd get home and he'd have to cook food. He'd have to clean up the house if you wanted to have a clean house. And she was all fucked up on speed. And if you said anything to her about it, Sherry would start fucking swinging on him. He said it's all right, you know, she swings about like a powder puff. That doesn't make it okay. You know, us guys are expected to say, oh, it doesn't hurt when a girl hits you. It hurts when anybody hits you. But we're supposed to pretend it doesn't hurt because we're manly. I know this guy up in Washington State. That's pretty close to here. And he's taking care of a kid that's not his. Now she's wanting to eat up his time and his money with legal matters. He bought the house. He paid for the house. She got a free ride on false pretenses. She got almost 18 years worth of a free ride on false pretenses. Oh, I'm a virgin. I never been with any man but you. There's a woman named Rachel in Colorado, and she liked the bad boys. She used to hang out with George Helmstetter. He was a friend of hers. And a meth dealer, and he's recorded on this channel speaking about that, being a meth dealer. But Rachel, she liked all the bad boys. That's all she was interested in. She was really super nice and really super sweet. But you see the guys that she hung on to and the ones that she hung out with. Big difference. The ones that she was hanging out with were the ones she was having sex with. The bad boys, the ones she was interested in. And then there's the ones that she was sweet and nice to and would talk to like they're people. But when she needed something, was it those big, tough bad boys that she went to for help? No, they don't give a fuck about her. She already knows that. That's why she comes to people like me. People like Sage. How did I know that Rachel was pregnant? Well, one day she come down to Pearl Street and she started hitting on me. Now, mind you, women don't mac on me like that, like hardcore macking on me. When a woman makes it that obvious, let me tell you, before I turned 18, nobody was attracted to me. There was a situation with Kristen Kepler where she had a crush on me, and there was a situation with Amanda Demet where she had a crush on me. One of them went psycho, the other one went out with my brother, so goes life. Now, after I turned 18, I got all these little underage girls that have crushes on me. And all of a sudden, I had homosexual men hitting on me ever since I was a little kid, so I'm actually used to that. That has always been shameless. Yeah, gay men get horny too. It's not as easy to tell if a person is like-minded. Just because a man is a man doesn't mean that he's gay like you are. And there's a lot of gay friends of mine that are okay with that. And there's some of them that are like, Sean, you're fucking dog ugly. I would never date you. But once in a while, when I'm all fucked up on drugs, and I'm like, I don't want to fucking hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm not farting your yogurt. If you want to fart yogurt, that's fine. That's your decision. I'm not farting another man's yogurt. I'm not okay with that. That's not for me. I'm not okay with kissing. I'm not okay with exchanging snot in any way, shape, or form. It's snot. It's mucus. It's gross. All of our orifices produce mucus, and I am disgusted by mucus. So it's nothing personal against you. It's not saying that you're a horrible person for your chosen preference. Oh, can't say chosen though, can I? Although I fought for a lot of homosexuals who told me, you know what, Sean, I am who I am. I tried to make myself straight, but I'm not straight. I can't make myself straight. I am what I am. I am who I am. And I've had those very same men try macking on me and try to insinuate that I owe it to them to try to be gay. No, that's not okay either. And we got all this fucked up shit going on in the world. And then there's this father in Washington State taking care of a 17-year-old that isn't his. You guys want to talk about the good stepfathers? This is a good real father. Whether that's his son or not, he's being a father regardless. I started this journey. I'm going to finish it. It's not that young man's fault that his mama was the way that she was. With Rachel, when she came down there macking on me, I was a grown-ass adult and she was an adult woman. What the hell? That does not happen to me. Unless she's really drunk. And Rachel wasn't drunk. Now, by the end of the day, I'd had four. She came up to me and she asked me out on a date. I said yes. I was a lot younger then, by the way. Now, by the end of the day, I'd had four other nice guy friends of mine come tell me that Rachel had been macking on him and asked him out on a date. Yep, that's how I knew she was pregnant. That wasn't my first fucking rodeo. That wasn't the first time that a good-looking woman had gone around and messed around with all the bad boys, and then once she ended up pregnant, ran around homie hopping for a father figure. Or someone to take care of her while she was pregnant. We've also got, in black society, one of the things that is very different from white society. It really ain't. It's not. I mean, we throw it out there that 70% of abortions come from African American women. And then we want to push that statistic like that magically makes it okay. No, it's a show of poverty. It is a show of poverty. It's not just poverty, but also ignorance. We're not giving those people the proper educations. By proper educations, I'm not talking about whitewashing history. I'm talking about getting actual help for people who are too poor to send their kids to school. Having to live in a ghetto, but you got to be afraid to leave your house. Meanwhile, all this gang warfare, this is not a byproduct of black people being horrible people. This is a byproduct of poverty. I'm going to get my comeuppance. I'm going to get up and out. I'm going to get out of this shit. Same thing all the homeless people say. I'm going to get up and out. I'm going to get up and out. I'm just focusing on getting up and out. Coming up in the world. And for some people, you know, it's about prestige. It's about the hoes. Or it's about the money. We got a real problem with drugs in the United States, but the major issue we got here is that we're not blaming the right people. When that guy in Washington State got together with a woman that he knew was out of his league. I mean, looking at him now, he's aged very well. They showed a picture of the guy with his son, and, they showed a picture of him back in, like, 1990s or so. And that guy was so goofy looking. But he aged well. So he's actually better looking now than he was in his 20s. I suppose probably would have been the 2000s, wouldn't it? His son was 17, and he had his son when he was pretty young. I think they said he was right out of high school. But the thing is that this guy is still taking care of a boy that's not his. That young man's mother is homeless. Now, obviously, she was able to move into somebody else's house, and that's one of the things they were talking about, is that she was on drugs in, I want to say, Tacoma. And she was able to just go over to one of the drug dealers' houses and stay there. She basically has been on rotation, one drug dealer's house to another. She wants to sue him and get alimony. But what they were talking about is how in Washington State they had set a legal precedence of this man is literally trapped with that 17-year-old. Now, he made the moral decision to continue being a father to that 17-year-old. When you love somebody, you love them. He'd been raising this young man as his own son. You don't just all of a sudden hate your own son just because, anybody who can do that didn't actually love that person to begin with. It's kind of like my dad. My dad never loved me. He wanted me to be somebody else's kid. I took a DNA test at my dad's request. Turns out I am his kid. Poor Brian Schwartz. He lives in Tacoma too, by the way. Now, really hits close to home. Living in Tacoma, Washington, going to Lincoln High School. This is a minority high school. Most of the kids I went to school with there were black. There were a few black kids that were pregnant. A lot of the white girls ended up getting pregnant, and they didn't stick around in the school very long. It was a lot more white males in that school than there was white females. But we're also talking about like 19%, 18% white. All the rest is minorities. Kind of a tough area. Now, this father, one of the things is in Washington State, they have had multiple cases over the years where fathers had found out that the kid wasn't theirs and went, you know what, I'm not going to be the dad. This isn't my kid. I've spent all these years taking care of a kid that isn't mine, and according to Washington State, because a woman was able to dupe him for that long, it's his fault that he got duped. It's his fault, so he does have to continue being a father to that child, at least until the child is 18. Yeah, no joke. Has to continue paying all of that. Now, this lady is wanting to get alimony from him, and she believes that the alimony that she'll be getting is more than the, the child support that she'll have to pay, because they're not going to let her have her son when she's homeless. She's also not been thinking about her son. She just keeps calling in the ex. She's made up every story about him, from he's a serial rapist, to he's a homosexual, to he wears women's clothing, and where have we heard this before? How many times have we heard this before? How many of us know people who tell us these things about our guy friends? Or even, especially, if it's a guy that we don't like or don't get along with, competition, right? Now, this woman, despite the fact that she's on drugs and she's getting older in years, she's not, like, ugly by any means. She's definitely still an attractive woman. She definitely does try to make herself look good so that she does look more appealing for the courts and all that. Now we're looking at a situation here where the guy, according to the state of Washington, is responsible for that child either way. Whether he's your son or not, because you were duped for so long, you're stuck that way. You're stuck paying those bills. You're stuck raising a child that's not yours. And the reason that Washington State does this, they say it's not fair to the child. It's not fair to the child. Never mind the man who spent 18 years of his life raising somebody else's kid. All of the expenses that go along with that and the responsibilities that go along with that. The possibility of prison if your son fucks up bad enough. Yeah, in Washington State, you can go to prison. If your son walks into the local high school and starts blasting people, you as a parent can go to prison for that. Yup. If your son gets busted selling drugs or your daughter gets selling drugs, you as a parent can go to prison for that in Washington State. How many of y'all pay attention to the laws? How many of y'all pay attention to the shit that people are being arrested for and convicted of? A lot of the things that people wanted to argue with me about, oh, that's not illegal and this isn't illegal. Really, if it's not illegal, then why do people get arrested and convicted of exactly that every day? We can look on the news every day and see that people are being arrested for the things that were done to me. I definitely have spent a lot of time in white society. I went to Nebraska when I was 15. It was culture shock. I didn't know shit about white people. And here I was surrounded by nothing but white people. Don't make no fucking sense to me. So what does this man get for his troubles? 18 years ago, a woman pretended to be interested in him, and she was supposedly a virgin. He didn't know shit. He was kind of he was definitely a dork. He was not the guy that you tell your daughter, oh, you guys are going to have some good-looking kids. Oh, you should marry him. You'll have good-looking kids together. No, this was not the guy. This is the, oh shit, I'm fucking pregnant guy. The holy fuck, I gotta find a simp. There's gotta be a guy around here somewhere who is lonely enough and desperate enough that he'll fall for my looks and do whatever the fuck I want. Believe whatever the fuck I say. And by the way, it's been proven that a pretty face and a straight smile, which she does have, helps to pass the lie more than anything else. We want to believe Pretty. Pretty would not lie to us. Sure. It's kind of like these idiots who are focused on what's rude and what isn't. I don't give a fuck about what society considers rude. I compare the rudeness thing to religion. I've got no place for it. I've known too many people who have used religion to manipulate others. I've got no room for that in my life. All humans manipulate. We have to. Everything is owned. You can't just go find a plot of land and grow your own food. No, you're looking at 40 to 60 years of busting your ass if you're poor. 40 to 60 years of busting your ass so you can have a plot of land. After 40 to 60 years. You're going to be too fucking old to farm anyway. Now we're debasing a lot of black people by putting shit on TV like Basketball Wives. Holy fucking shit. That's done more damage to the black community than Boys in the Hood did back in the 90s. Y'all remember that movie, Boys in the Hood? And all of a sudden, every white boy in America wants to be a gangster. I won't be a gangster rapper. I'm a real pimp. All of a sudden, you got Nebraskans trying to sew their own Jinko jeans. And then you got to have the FUBU with the rhino on it, don't you? Man, that became real popular, didn't it? You get a record label, all of a sudden you got a clothing line. You're hiring models and having runway shows. Restricted number, and they hung up before I got to hang up on them. Oh well. They'll probably do this for a while. Now this guy taking care of a 17-year-old. He's not sheltering his 17-year-old from what's going on. His 17-year-old knows that his mom's on drugs. They talked about how the drug statistic they're trying to use against the father, because he's a black man, that he must be on drugs. Because he's a black man, he must be predisposed to rape. And a bunch of other racist bullshit. This is coming from, by the way, the mother is black as well. And she's trying to claim that he raped her like 16 years ago, 17 years ago. Now, mind you, she's had a couple of miscarriages since then. You know, she was with this guy for a lot of years, and they did have sex. Now, there's no statute of limitations on certain crimes. A lot of women play on the fact that we're just supposed to believe them and we are supposed to cater to them. A lot of women in America today, when we say, all right, you know what, when your kid is all whiny in the grocery store because he wants a fucking toy, how many of y'all get sick of that? How many of y'all parents, male or female, get sick of that? How many of y'all get sick of your 5-year-old wanting to be demanding in a store about something that they want? And they'll nag you over and over and over again until they get what they want. Or you leave the store. All right, now how many of you husbands out there are sick of being married to a 5-year-old? How many of you husbands out there are sick of being constantly demanded to do one thing after another, after another, after another? You have no time for yourselves. You go to work to take care of your family and provide for your family. Then you're expected when you get off of work to go buy a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff you don't have the money for and don't fucking need. How many of y'all are tired of coming home from work and your wife has decided to volunteer you for some assignment for some other woman who wants help? Oh, I don't know how to do that, or I'm not big enough to do that, but I'll have my husband do it when he gets home. How many of y'all get home from work and there's a honey-do list waiting for you? And you're just going to have to listen to that nagging every day until it gets done. Meanwhile, I don't know about you guys, but the more I'm nagged at about doing something, the less I want to do it. There's a lot of times where I'll be washing dishes because I like washing dishes. There's been many places where this scenario was played out, where I'm washing the dishes, right? And, of course, I go to the bathroom, or I let my fingers unprune because there's a lot of fucking dishes. When you got 6 roommates, sometimes they pile up. But me, I take initiative. I was the only person at Phil McPhee's house who took the initiative to wash the dishes. The only one. If I didn't wash the dishes, we ended up with mold that got thrown out. That's what happened to most of our dishes. Brandon Jepson, same thing. If I didn't wash the dishes when I went to visit him in Sidney, Nebraska, he would throw all of his dishes out and go and buy some more. It was cheap enough. He was making enough money to do so. Now, this guy in Washington State that was on one of these men's shows, by the way, it's not one of the ones that I like either. Some of these men's shows are extremely sexist, and the one that I was listening to this morning, a little bit last night, is extremely sexist. I mean, these guys they're woman haters, and most of their show is primarily focused on sex, and this one wasn't any different. They were basically just trying to say that, all women are hoes, and that's not the case. But the thing is, we talk about stepfathers taking care of kids that ain't their own. My stepdad, Michael Scott Wade, given his situation, I think he did a great job. I think he did a great job of trying to at least provide for 4 kids that were not his. He only ever tried being a parent to one of us, and that was my little sister. And I think he did a great job of that, other than being just a stepfather, because my stepdad would have left my mom many times if it wasn't for him being afraid for my little sister and how my mom really is. My stepdad's also a fucking idiot, so keep that in mind. He wasn't at all as intelligent as this guy in Washington State. Dude, it's your fucking house. Kick her out. I think Michael Scott Wade would have done a better job of raising myself, my older brother Eric, my little sister Tara, and my little brother Michael. I believe that Michael Scott Wade would have done a better job of raising us without my mother there. I think he would have been allowed to actually do some of those parenting things. But for my mom, it was about power and control. It was about being a 5-year-old and acting up if she didn't get what she wanted. It was about whining and pining until my stepdad had no choice in his mind other than to literally commit felonies. And my stepdad did commit felonies for my mother. It wasn't just spider wiring people's houses. If you're an electrician, you know what spider wiring is. You know it's a bad fucking idea, and it could get somebody fucking killed. Also, permits are pretty fucking important. Even if you do all of the wiring perfect, if you didn't get the permit, they might tear it all out and have you do it again. My stepdad was pressured by my mom not to get permits that he was required to get in the state of Nebraska. He had to actually flee the state of Nebraska. He's still fleeing prosecution, so far as I know, because of his shitty job as an electrician. He had to actually leave the whole country. He got onto an airplane over to Iraq and was working for Halliburton as an electrician over there in Iraq. My stepdad was also, he was in the Air Force. He's got a stack of papers of national security this and national security that. Fucking he saved our country on 1980s computers somehow. He doesn't talk about his work, never did. He just got into computers. Now, knowing what Scott had to go through, now that all of us are grown, Scott's not stuck with my mom anymore. He's just so old that he's got no self-esteem left. She has tore him down until there's nothing left but an empty shell of what used to be a man. He don't think he can find somebody at his age. He's pretty scrawny and pretty ugly and doesn't have a perfect record anymore, and so basically he feels like he's stuck with my mom. And her incessant whining, her being a 5-year-old and acting like a 5-year-old, and I need this and I need that, and buy me this and buy me that. Do you ever stop and tell yourself how wrong it is that you abuse men this way? Does my mom ever stop to think about how horribly she abused Scott? My little sister is horribly abusive towards men too. Now, after she found religion, she tried to change that. And I keep hoping that either she'll stick with that religious route and something good will come to fruition, or she'll knock that fucking shit off, think logically and rationally, and take responsibility. I love my little sister, there is no doubt about that. I love my niece, there is no doubt about that. But the thing is, I'm not taking care of a bunch of kids that ain't mine. I'm doing this from a distance. I used to be able to help people out when they needed it. If you needed help, you needed somebody to watch your kids or help you move, I was the go-to. I was the guy who would do that. I was the guy who would make the time. That's the difference between my friends and I. I made the time for them. They made excuses for me. I don't need excuses. That man up in Washington State doesn't need excuses. People throwing it in his face. Oh, well, black men are not there for their kids. Black men are not there for their kids. This guy shouldn't be allowed because black men this and black men that. And this is coming from black women. Black women giving hatred to this guy for being a good dad to a kid that ain't his. Scott may not have been a good dad. That's Michael Scott Wade, one of my stepdads. He may not have been a good dad, but he had the potential to be if my mother hadn't been in the way. This guy up in Washington State, his son stands with him. He doesn't have to. Matter of fact, I think the show that I was watching is actually pretty old. This might have happened last year or the year before. So that young man might be an adult now. Just at the time that this happened, he was 17. I throw a lot of my personal experiences into the stories because the thing is, we can find common ground. Now, to you ladies, when you're spending 80% of consumers, 80% of consumer buying comes from women. 70 to 80%, depending on where you're at regionally. 70 to 80%. Men earn more than women, but women spend more than men. Most of the men that I know, their money goes towards what? Where the woman wants it to go to, because if not, she will never shut up. The secret to a happy life is a happy wife, right? Well, she's going to nag at you until she gets what she wants. It's not like the 5-year-old that once you leave the store, they forgot about the Power Ranger figurine they wanted. They're not going to remember the Power Ranger figurine they wanted unless it's the most important thing and it's what they want for Christmas. The next time you go into a store, they're going to want something else. They want the little bouncy balloon with the rubber band on it. The next time you go in, they want the little stick of bubble gum. They're always going to want something. But once you leave the store, they forgot about it. It's not a, you owe them the Power Ranger, you owe them the gum. You owe them the bouncy balloon. It's ADOS, and children have that. Attention deficit, squirrel. You can redirect their attention. When you've got a person who feels entitled and like they're owed, they're not going to forget that one stick of fucking bubble gum. They're not. They're not going to forget that Power Ranger that you didn't buy them 10 years ago. With a child, it's understandable that your child is not going to work. It's understandable that your child isn't doing all the cooking and the cleaning in the house. It's understandable because your child is not allowed to do certain things. Your child isn't allowed to join the company business until that child is at least 15 years of age. 15. In a lot of places in the United States, that child is not allowed to join the workforce until 15 with a permit or 16 with written permission. If you're able to get that summer job to get yourself your first car, or your parents will pay for the car, but you got to pay for the insurance. Some of us, we had summer jobs so that we could make sure our siblings were fed. To make sure that even though Angela K. Wade was busy sticking all of Michael Scott Wade's money up her nose, my little sister still got hungry. My little brother still got hungry. And even though I wasn't getting along with my little brother at the time, I still didn't want him to starve. My mom's always acted like a 5-year-old if she doesn't get what she wants. She'll try to wiggle and finagle it into you feeling sorry for her so that you'll do something for free. The thing is, my mom doesn't need people to feel sorry for her. My mom's a shitty fucking person. She needs to do it for herself. She needs to wipe her own ass. She doesn't know what that's like. And neither does my dad. My mom has had boyfriends while married to Scott Wade. Had sex with those boyfriends. And Scott is expected to just let people walk all over him and trounce all over him. Because my little sister. Now the man's got no self-esteem. Now this guy in Washington State, even though he's in his 40s now, he looks like he's maybe 25, 26. He's aged extremely well. He's not in the dating game, or wasn't as far as when the YouTube thing was made, but the thing is, if he wanted to, he could probably get into a good relationship pretty quickly and pretty easily. That would also hurt him legally. Even after you get a divorce from somebody, that stuff can be used to try to fight for stuff in court. She's not trying to fight for custody of her son. This lady who's fighting this guy in Washington State. She's not trying to get custody of her son. She knows she can't take care of her son. She's never been able to take care of her son. Oh my God, is that marijuana? No. It was weird. For a second there, I was like, I don't roll joints. What the fuck? Just the way that it's reflecting off the steering wheel, I suppose. What would the FBI say? Oh, it was a weather balloon bouncing off of some swamp gas. It just half burnt. It looked weird. Alright, so anyway, I can't remember the guy's name, and I felt horrible about that, because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go through that whole fucking thing just to find the guy's name. I got more important shit to do. But I wanted to make sure that I pointed out the situation, because it does tie in closely together with a lot of the stuff I've been talking about and speaking about and trying to show y'all is actually happening. There's a lot of men out there who aren't out to take advantage of all your crap. There are men out there who are not interested in raping you. There are men out there who are good men. And for that guy in Washington State to remain a good man after finding out what she did to him, one of the things they also brought up is that now that she's hanging out at these drug dealers' houses, they see her out and about in the homeless community. Well, she's fucking homeless. And maybe she'll learn something about the world, not having everything handed to her, not being that petulant 5-year-old that expects that Power Ranger and is going to never let you hear the end of not getting that Power Ranger. It's not like it was something that was important. You remember I tell you the analogy of those special shoes? You got diabetes, and these special shoes are supposed to help it so that you don't end up with diabetic sores on your feet, because if that happens, it could get gangrenous. And basically, you got 2 weeks to get these special shoes, or they're going to have to amputate your feet. 6 months down the road, somebody finally, after ignoring you for all that time, had promised you they were going to make sure that you had those special shoes. And then they ghost you for 6 months, and they come back and they're like, oh, well, I got you those special shoes. What, you don't want them? Hey, I want you to put on these shoes. It's a photo op. I bought you these shoes. I bought you these shoes. Dude, I have no more fucking feet. They amputated my feet 5.5 months ago. What the fuck am I going to do with those goddamn shoes? Oh, you're going to be an asshole to me because I'm being ungrateful? You didn't do me anything that was fucking useful. You wasted time. You wasted energy. You were not dependable. And then you want to make that person feel like they're the bad person because you didn't keep your word. A lot different than, oh, I didn't get the Power Ranger toy I wanted. I didn't get the bouncy balloon. Dear men, being married does not mean that you have to be a slave. If she's spending 80% of the money, she better be earning 80% of the money. Or it better be agreed upon from the start that you're going to be the simp. Because once she's gotten used to that lifestyle, then yes, she can sue you for the alimony of that. She never bothered to get a job, never bothered to do a goddamn thing. Just mooched off of you for years and years and years, and now you owe her that. The law is going to require you to give her that. Now, why is it that she wasn't able to kick him out of the house? I mean, legally it's half his and half hers, right? Well, that comes down to she already knew that she was in a losing battle because the DNA test showed that she had basically taken advantage of a man for 18 years. If a man did that, where would he be? In prison. That is highly illegal. The number of laws that a woman has to break in order to get a man to raise her child for 18 years. Hers, not his. It's horrible. How much money did he earn in that time? How much of it was spent on making sure that she had everything that she wanted? Making sure that her son got to school every day. Make sure that he got fed every day. Make sure that he got insurance. Make sure that he's safe. Make sure he's able to go to these athletic programs. There was another one where they were talking about an Asian guy, but like I said, the site that I found this one on, they're sexist assholes. They hate women. They want to tell simps that, hey, you know, if you make yourself taller and better looking and get more money, then women will want you. Well, fucking duh. But are they the women that we're really interested in? I mean, would I really rather have a conversation with a decent person and sit down and maybe draw some pictures? Hey, we're in the same room together. We're both artists. We're both having fun. We can bounce ideas off of each other. Or am I somebody who's going to be going, all right, well, this girl here, she's got clothes that are really, 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 really super tight. She's accentuating her bosom. She's got a super short pleated mini skirt. She's got makeup on her face. And she's at a bar trying to troll for dick. Which one of those is somebody like me more likely to go for? Are you going to find me at a bar? Not likely. If you do, I've got a purpose for being there. Other than drinking. Other than finding pussy. For this guy having to deal with the racism and the sexism at the same time. Oh, well, you know, black father's this and black father's that. Really, you're using examples of people who are not this guy. Things that other people did, not this guy. This guy is raising a 17-year-old that's not his. He's not this black statistic of abandoning his kid. A lot of times when you're in an impoverished situation and you don't have a positive male role model in your life, yeah, a lot of times sex becomes your way of gaining acceptance. There's a lot of women who come from poor parts of our society. Just so you know, the majority of the people who are white who have abortions are also poor. Yeah. So when you got poor people that are going out there and they've learned that sex is love, you have sex with 5 or 6 different guys because, well, you're trying to feel love, and then you're pregnant and you don't know who the daddy is. And we are supposed to feel bad for you, and we do feel bad for you, but at the same time, I didn't have that sex. I didn't make you have sex with those people. Why is it my responsibility? It isn't. It isn't my responsibility. I take on that responsibility because I care about your kid. Something that I figure every American should be down with. That guy up in Washington State, despite the fact that that child's mother only cares about herself, that man is showing that he is not a fucking statistic. He is a human being with human emotions. And his legal battle is... holy shit, I wouldn't want that one either.